What's happening, Hardscapers? I want to talk to you today about lift and relays. Having a specific lift and relay business or division, it's a great way to get started in the hardscape industry. Let's get into it. So when I started my business, I actually started with a lift and relay type business. Basically, this is going into a project that has already been laid years later and seeing lots of divots in a driveway or in a patio project. It's about identifying what is causing that and fixing it for the client. This can be caused to a poor base construction. It could be caused to a lack of compaction. It could be caused by not using the right aggregates, or something as simple as freeze-thaw cycles that has caused quality issues, or poor drainage in a certain area that has caused issues with that patio or driveway project. Now, this is the great thing about pavers and interlocking concrete pavement, is that it can be fixed. It can be repaired. Some other pavements such as concrete would just crack and then it would have to be fully replaced, or at least have a patch of that area replaced. And with pouring new concrete, it might not look the exact same as the other slabs of that concrete, especially if it's been there for some time. So this is such a major benefit of pavers and of clients actually investing into an interlocking concrete pavement solution for their patio, walkway, driveway, whatever it might be. So when it comes to identifying these problems, you typically have to be able to lift up some of the pavers to take a look at the aggregate, to take a look at what might be causing this, and to consider solutions for your clients. Now, the reason why I started a lift and relay business is because it had low overhead, low startup costs. It was easy to get going right away. And this is why it's such a perfect way to get started in the hardscape industry. Low overhead expenses means that you have low startup costs. You don't need major pieces of equipment to do this, and it's a lot easier to do than actually designing and preparing a project from scratch for a client. That also means it's systematizable. It's much easier to scale this type of business, to get employees to do this type of work, because it's not as creative or customizable as starting with nothing from scratch and going to concept and then to build. You have the project already laid out in front of you. It just needs to be repaired. So this is something that is systematizable, and it's also a great way to learn more about hardscaping and what could cause these failures along the way with a project that hasn't been constructed properly. That will help you moving forward with your business, because you'll be able to identify certain steps in the build process that you can improve on, or at least make sure that you do not make the same mistakes. The downside to them is that it's very labor intensive. You're picking up the stones. You can't go in there with a skid steer and plow everything up and dispose of it. These stones need to be used again, so they need to be picked up by hand, stacked. The polymeric sand needs to be cleaned from them, so that's typically scraping, or prior to picking them up, you're using a hot water pressure washer to blow out the sand, and then you're picking them up, but you'll still need to clean them. And then you're doing what needs to be done to the base to prepare it, and then relaying the stones. So it's a little bit more labor intensive than actually building a project from scratch, because you're not necessarily using equipment, you're using labor. And in that sense, not being able to find labor to fill holes in your business is a little bit difficult to do, especially nowadays. But having a piece of equipment show up to the project on any single project is a lot easier than getting a laborer to show up to pick up stones for you. So there's a little bit of give and take here, but it's still a great way to start your business, at least learn more about hardscaping and start to scale up your business from there. We still do lift and relays in my business, but I've transitioned away from that for the most part. I really like the design build aspect of this industry, being able to creatively design a space from scratch and to be able to build that. That's where my passions lie. So I've transitioned away from lift and relay, but I still recognize it as a great way to start in this industry and to get started as a business. So when I started, I had 3 different packages that I would offer a client when it comes to this lift and relay, and these varied in terms of pricing. Starting with the lowest pricing, basically I would identify the problem area and I would expand that area out a little bit further than that problem area. The reason being, as pavers shift downwards and upwards, they put rotational stress on the pavers around them, and for those pavers to sink, the pavers surrounding them actually need to push out slightly for them to sink. So if you just pick up the pavers in that immediate area that are sinking, you're not going to be able to match it exactly with pavers adjacent to those pavers. So typically we're expanding that area out at least around 3 feet around that problem area in order to pick them up and put them back in place so that it looks as good as possible. Now, that's not always the case. You can't always get them as good as possible. Sometimes you're going to need to lift and relay the whole project in order to fix these many problem areas. And as I continued in business, that's what I pushed every client towards, and that's today where I stand. I'm not going to do a lift and relay unless I'm doing the entire project. It just doesn't make sense to me, especially where our overhead expenses are at, to dedicate some time to just a small little divot in a project to pick that up and lift and relay. But when you're starting out, getting as many projects and getting as many clients as you can to spread the word of mouth of your business is a great way to grow your business. So we identified the problem area, and when we're meeting with the client as a consultation, we'll pick up some of those stones, we'll see what the base is looking like, and then we'll provide some solutions to that client. And like I said, we've got 3 packages. The first package is very simple. We'll identify that problem area, expand about 3 feet out, and we'll lift those, add some aggregate, and put it back down. Install a jointing compound. Very simple, cost-effective way of fixing the problem. It's more of a band-aid solution. If it's a trip hazard or if the client is selling their place in the future, it's just a band-aid solution. The next solution is actually entirely replacing that base. So in this case, maybe the project was built on a poor aggregate like a stone dust. In that case, we've identified the problem, we know we need to fix it and not to put a band-aid solution on it. So we'll tell the client, we'll talk to them about the specifications of stone dust, why it's failing because of that aggregate, or it could be that it's poor compaction, or it could be very minimal base preparation in it. So in all these cases, what we tell the client is that it would be best to replace the entire base, but we can reuse the pavers and save them on that. Essentially, we're building a new project from scratch minus the actual material cost for those pavers, so they're still saving about $5 a square foot. And then the third option is a complete upsell from that. I can say to them, hey, we're replacing the base. We are doing everything properly from the start. The only thing that you're going to save on is those pavers. But if you want an updated look, we can completely replace those pavers. It's going to cost you about that $5 per square foot more for those pavers, plus any added costs that we see in terms of getting those pavers to us on site and any material cost markup that we're not talking to our client there. But we can at least tell them what their costs would be additionally for that paver per square foot. So really option number 2 and 3 are essentially the same, but with a slight upsell if we want to provide that for our client. And that slight upsell is a great way to go about building your portfolio, especially if you want to transition away from that lift and relay business towards a design build business, because you can work towards getting those newer looking projects that look like you actually design build them into your portfolio and start to advertise for those types of works as you see fit. Lift and relays got my business to where it is today so far, and we've come a long way from offering lift and relays. We still do offer lift and relays if we're doing the entire project. It's a great way to make money with low overhead expenses, especially when you're just starting out. You can contact other contractors because likely they're not in the position to be taking on those types of smaller projects considering their overhead expenses. So you can speak to them about you starting your own business, and you'd love those smaller leads that they get, and in turn you can offer them larger leads that you are not built to actually start doing where you are at in your business. It's a great way to improve your network, expand your network, and to get projects from other contractors in your network. That being said, when it comes to retaining walls, we never and will never do a retaining wall lift and relay. Essentially, when it comes to a retaining wall, and if it's failing, there's some major problems with that system, and essentially you're just going to offer a complete rebuild when it comes to a retaining wall. I can never see a retaining wall essentially being lifted and relayed. If there's something wrong with a retaining wall, it's usually something really major, like drainage stone in behind it being lacking, poor base construction, or whatnot. So this is lift and relays. I hope this has helped you give an idea about a business. It's a great way to start your business, to learn more about hardscaping and learn more about what causes projects to fail, as well as to improve your network, expand your network with other contractors, get other leads into your business, and start to grow your business with low overhead expenses, low startup startup costs. I hope this helped you. If you found this helpful, useful information, please give us a like. Leave in the comment section what you think of this type of business. We actually did an interview with a business owner that has expanded their lift and relay business in Quebec. This was ET of Léger Landscapes. This is on the How to Hardscape podcast. We did a 1 hour long interview about their business, how they got their business to where it is today, specifically doing lift and relays. So if this interests you, go check out the How to Hardscape podcast. The link is in the description below, or you can just search that on your favorite podcast app, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more hardscaping content. Thank you so much for watching.